Hi, this is Ken Broadway from the University of Florida, and today I'd like to show you how to change a snare drum head, the batter head specifically. I'm going to be changing this out. I'm going to be putting on a Remo Diplomat Renaissance head, and I've just got the head that came with the drums, a fairly new Yamaha concert snare, deep shell. So again, the heads that come with the drums are quite fine, but they really do need to be replaced when, obviously, they're damaged, when they start not sounding good. There's no real set rule about when you should do this. You need to use your own judgment depending on how much the drum is played on. It could be as often as weeks, could be as long as a year. This one's been on for about, I think about 6 months, and it's been played on a good bit. So it is time to replace this head. So the first thing I'm going to do with my drum key is gradually take the tension off this head. I never want to do anything too much too soon. I don't want to bend the hoop, so I want to make sure that I'm patient. And I'm going to do this for you in real time. So again, I would recommend to you for a concert snare drum you use some kind of coated head or Renaissance style head if you use Remo. It really does make a big difference. You don't want to use a clear head for a concert snare drum. And gradually, I'm going to get the tension off here. And I'll get to a point where I can do this with my hand. But again, you see I'm trying to go consistently. Now I do go around in a clockwise fashion a little bit at a time. There's different opinions about whether we should go crisscrossing around the drum or gradually around. And I think as long as you go a little bit at a time, you notice I'm never doing more than just about a quarter turn. Okay, so now the head is loose. So I can take the drum key and I can loosen these tension rods all the way out. So again, if the drum is fairly new, like this one is, this drum is, again, just not even a year old, if I remember correctly, these tension rods are going to come out very easily. If you've got an older drum, or maybe the lubrication is worn off on these tension rods, it might take you a good bit of time to get these off. So just a little bit of background on me while I'm doing this. I teach at the University of Florida, and I'm doing these videos certainly because of the time we're living right now, and I'm making these. We're in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic, but also I get a lot of requests from students, music educators. How do you change a drum head? How do you fix this? So I'm making these videos, number one, for my students in both my percussion studio as well as my percussion skills class, which is for the music education majors who aren't percussionists. And I'm also making this for any educators at large or anybody who's just curious about how to change a concert snare head. Alright, we're almost done here. Alright, once I get them pretty loose, I can make sure everything is loose. Okay, I'm going to move this drum head over a little bit. I'm going to pull these tension rods off the rim and put them on a surface where if they're greasy, they will not cause me problems. Try to get them where they're not going to roll off. I've got them on the cardboard sleeve that the drum head came in. You want to be careful at this point. There are washers, metal washers on these tension rods. I'm going to hold this a little closer for you. You don't want to lose those washers. Very, very important. So if you pull these out quickly, don't let that happen. All right, so there we have it. Those are all off of the drum. So now we can take the rim off. I try to put the rim back on the drum in the same exact place it came off, so I'm going to try to keep track of that while I'm talking to you. But at the same time, once I pull this off, unless you're in a very controlled environment, there's probably going to be some dust in there. So you want to take a moment, wipe this dust off. Okay, make sure I get that back on correctly. And now when you pull the old head off, make sure you take a look, make sure there's nothing inside the drum. If it's an older drum, you want to take a little bit of time. I'm just going to go ahead and put this rim on this head so I keep track of it. You want to make sure that nothing is loose inside the drum. This is a good chance if you've got an older drum to take either a wrench, a screwdriver, something, and make sure the entire mechanism is nice and tight in there. You don't want any rattles in there for sure. Now there are always two approaches for putting the logo on a drum. You could put the logo away from you. Certainly the newer logos don't come off on your sticks. This is great for performing when you want to have something to aim for your beads, depending on your playing position. Some people will put the logo towards them as well if they don't like playing over this logo. You put it on there. And again, you're going to line up that logo wherever you decide to put it and start putting the tension rods back in. Okay. Again, watch out for the washers. Make sure that they don't fall off. And I'm just going to finger tighten them a little bit. Now, one thing I should have mentioned, and I did look at the shell when I had taken this off, is that you do want to make sure there's no imperfections in the shell, any chips or anything like that. Again, on a newer drum, you're not going to have issues with that. But you just always want to make sure that everything is really in good shape before you start putting it back together. So it might have been a little quicker than it would be for you if you had to go through and do any adjusting. Again, also, if your drum is a little bit older, you might need to re-lubricate the tension rods. There are a lot of different materials you can use for that. Certainly, I won't go through too many of the pros and cons. WD-40, certainly other oils that have graphite base, like gun oil is an excellent one to use. Again, some people use petroleum jelly. It's a little bit more viscosity on that, a little thicker than I like. I particularly like the gun oil or WD-40 personally. Don't use anything that's going to dry out. Candle waxes and things like that certainly can cause creaking and popping. They do work. And again, sometimes you have to use whatever you have on hand in that particular situation. Okay, so now all I've done is put the tension rods back in to the mechanism, into the lug casings. Try to make sure everything is lined up really straight before I start doing anything else. If you want to check your logo, if you're a little obsessive about where that logo is, now's a good time to really make sure you measure that. And then you're going to pick a place to start. Again, whether you crisscross or whether you go around the drum, you want to pick some place where you're going to remember where you began each time. I'm going to pick the tension rod just to the left of the snare adjustment knob. That's going to be my point of reference. And all I'm going to do right now is turn these tension rods until the tension rod bottom touches the top of the hoop or the washer that we had on there. Again, if you don't have those washers on there, you should look at that before you even take the drum apart. Make sure you get those. While you've got the drum apart, don't think, oh, I'll do it next time. Just make sure those washers are there. That makes tuning your drum much easier. Without those washers, your tension rods are potentially going to break at the top. You don't want that to happen. Again, all I'm doing here, I'm not putting any real tension on the drum head. All I'm doing is getting the tension rods down to the point where metal is touching metal. Now, I'm not going to go into the fine tuning today. That'll be for another conversation, but I will do a little bit of that today to get the drum head somewhat close. And again, I am doing this in real time, so if you're watching this, you can fast forward through some of these things if you want to go back through it, but I want you to see approximately how long it takes. This is not something you want to be doing 5 minutes before you have to perform on this drum, certainly. Okay, so now, needless to say, we are nowhere close to playing tension at this point. So now, I'm just going to start adding tension in just gradually, and I wish I had a better way of saying this other than I'm just trying to get a feel. We're making this similar. I'm using my thumb on the drum head, the batter head, to just make sure that I'm not putting too much tension on there. Just trying to match it all the way around. Again, there are a lot of other devices you can use besides your finger for this. And now the drum is starting to have some resonance to it. Certainly you don't want to be playing on it with a drumstick right now. You will dent the head. I'll give you I'm going to put the tension rod, the drum key here so I won't forget where it was. I don't know if you're able to see on this old head, it's got a lot of imperfections and dents and things like that. So it's time to replace a head when it has those many dents on it for sure. Alright, so now, still a little loose to try to check any pitch. I'm going to just, again, very slowly and very gradually, I'm just adding a little bit of tension. I don't want to do too much too soon. I can't always go by feel because some tension rods turn a little bit easier than others. So it may be that the tension of the head is completely the same from here to here, but the way it feels when you're putting the tension on the tension rod may feel a little bit different. Now we're starting to get some tension on the drum at this point. I'm going to start getting things in the ballpark, in the general range, before I even worry about putting much more tension. Something is really a lot looser. I can feel that and I can hear it. I want to try to get that close before I even start adding any tension in. And as I add tension on one tension rod, I'm going to be adding tension in different places as well. So again, we're not in the fine-tuning range yet. But if they're considerably different, I want to catch those now. So it's starting to get a little bit closer. And again, I'm just spot checking right now. If you heard a pop a second ago, that's the glue popping just a little bit. I'm going to start going across. So it's getting closer. Again, we're not exactly there, but if I can get it closer before I start adding tension, that's going to make my life a lot easier. So now I'm going to go back to my reference point, which again was the tension rod just to the left of the snare adjustment knob. And now I'm going to start going about a quarter turn with the tension rod all the way around. If I'm in a hurry, I won't be able to check it so specifically here. And now I'm going to check the pitch again. Still somewhat close, and now once again I'm going to go around about a quarter turn. I start hearing more of the pops. My overall goal is to tune this head to about a concert A, so the pitch will be about do, way under right now. I don't need to get it all the way there the first day, but I can get it pretty close. I'm not hearing any popping anymore. I feel like this head is settling in well. When I strike the drum, you're starting to hear a consistent sound. You're not hearing a lot of different pitches. Again. I guess I kind of lied. I am fine-tuning as I go. I guess I can't really put on a drum head without doing some fine-tuning. It just doesn't go within my way of putting things on. To do it poorly, then I have to fix it later on. So now we're going to go around again. We're trying to get to that do pitch. Try to get a little closer. Still a little under. So it's getting pretty close. At this point, the best thing to do is to let this drum set for a while. Just to let the head set in. Don't play on it a lot right away. Just make sure that everything is settled in well, and then when you come back tomorrow, you're probably going to find the tension is looser, or even later on that day. Then you have to bring it back to that point of the concert A. And just a real quick note, you'll want to tune the batter head, the top head, just a little tighter at this A than the bottom head, the sympathetic or the snare head, snare side head. Hope this has been helpful for you. If you have any questions about that, please contact me at kbroadway@arts.ufl.edu. Thanks for watching.